Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into the NuclearRevenge archives. Our first story today comes to us from Elixir MTL. Someone stole $25,000 from me. It ended up costing him $500,000. Let's jump right in. A preamble. I was married to a very OCD and pragmatic man. For example, for him, a big romantic gesture had been to leave me alone for 24 hours at the hospital right after I had our son, so he could go pay bills and mow the lawn. 20 years later, I do understand he really did express love this way, but that's another story. I was in dire need of physical contacts because he'd never touched me unless he wanted very bland physical relations and also never ever kissed me. The story is not about him, it's only a preamble. So I divorced him, not just for what's above, mind you. I felt alone and unloved in this relationship. I just wrote about it to explain the state of mind I was in when I met this other person that we'll call PS. PS was the total opposite. He was very in tune with his emotions. He was very, very intense. This will be important later. He really expressed love like I thought I needed. On our first date, the waitress asked how long we had been together since he was so into me and touching me. He made me feel amazing. He had a huge house and a rather flashy lifestyle, so I assumed he was really well off. He told me he owned a car wash and a phone marketing company. Fast forward a bit, at this point we had been dating for about a year, and he had just asked me and my son to move in with him. I wasn't 100% sure, but he prepared the room for my son nonetheless. As I started spending more time in his house, still keeping mine, I also started to see strange behavior. He'd be up all night but sleep all day. I also overheard a few phone calls where he was telling people they owed money and needed to pay, but the conversations didn't fit with a car wash or phone marketing business. At some point, he told me he was having money problems. He said huge clients were late in paying and that it was jeopardizing his house payments. So I, stupid me, offered to help. I'm missing a part of this story because it started as me offering help with the house since we were there a lot. Still had my house though, but it ended up with me lending him $25,000. I cannot for the life of me remember that progression. The loan was supposed to be for 3 weeks, he said. I'd have it all back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That $25,000 came from my retirement savings and my son's college money, so I had to pay a fine to access it. It's also money it took me 10 years to put aside. That money was very important to me. During those 3 weeks, I went out to have drinks with my friends and found him on a date with another woman. I saw him French kissing another woman. I said nothing, went to his house, packed my crap, and left. So anyway, I thought he'd be an adult and would still reimburse the $25,000 the end of this 3 weeks. Big mistake. Someone I knew told me he was glad I left and proceeded to tell me about him. He said PS was a junkie, hooked on GHB, hence why he was so intense and so into his emotions. That also explained the erratic sleep and night patterns, but the final blow was when he told me that PS was also a con man, a specialist in defrauding older people by phone, his so-called phone marketing company. In the beginning, I wasn't sure I believed it, but then bits of what I had overheard in the last year started to make sense, and I realized it was all true. Back to this later. I tried getting my money back many different ways, none worked. I was at the end of my rope, and since it was in my year post-divorce and right after the 2008-2009 economic crash as well, I was poor as heck. So this is what I did. First, he had given me access to pay bills online, not to his bank accounts, but to his emails. So I was able to investigate all his accounts with the same password. I printed and screenshotted every little bit of information relating to money. I found proof that he was indeed scamming people and found the people he worked with and even the name of the person at Western Union who facilitated the money transfer. I found out he was an organized criminal. I also found out he did this between the US and Canada. I started preparing Strike One. Strike One. So for Strike One, I printed his face and the face of everyone working for or with him in defrauding people and left hundreds of flyers in his neighborhood. I also called the hotline for financial crime prevention in both Canada and the US and gave very specific details and names. Know that even if he had given me the money, this goes against my core values and I would have done the same thing either way. At this point, I was preparing Strike 2 as well. Strike 2. I was dumb in lending him money, but at least I did it the right way. I wrote a check, I didn't do cash, I wanted proof just in case. It would turn out to be a great idea. On the check, I had written that it was a loan. Thank you, Judge Judy, for this tip. Since he didn't pay me back, I prepared an invoice and sent it to me from his hacked email. When the time came to do my taxes, I filed the $25,000 as an expense using this invoice. I have many freelancers, I slid him in as one of them, and it passed. Don't ask me how I got his social security number, I can't remember, but I ended up having access to it, so ratted him out to the IRS for hiding income. I found out later on through friends that the IRS started investigating him for unpaid taxes. I heard he had to pay 38% taxes on that $25,000, plus pay a 20% fine for not declaring the income. At this point, I was satisfied. I figured $9,500 in taxes plus $5,000 in fines was 50% of what he owed me. At least he didn't get away with it all. But remember when I told you on the check I had written that it was a loan? So I took him to court and won. He didn't even show up. So he has to reimburse the full $25,000 plus court fees plus what he owes to the IRS. So it's $39,500 that he was to pay for not reimbursing $25,000. To this day, I still haven't seen a cent, but the rest of the story makes it worthwhile. At first, I thought the financial crime call I made had no effect. Well, it's now the cherry on top. What I didn't know at the time was that the IRS would team up with Wire Fraud Division and look at everything he did. They were not able to catch him on the wire fraud, but since the house he had did not fit with the money he was declaring, they got him on tax evasion and gave him a certain delay to pay back taxes. I heard it was only 3 months, but I don't know if it's accurate. They got him so good, they ended up freezing his accounts and he lost his house. The bank foreclosed it, and his debt to the IRS is still open. We are not in the US, so he won't go to jail for this, however. But my $25,000 that he did not want to repay ended up costing him over $500,000. And since you cannot go bankrupt for a debt you owe to the government, I'm happy to tell you that at 40 years old, he had to move back with his parents and ask for welfare, and will probably be paying this for the rest of his life. This story is not finished, however. I just learned that he now has a job as a concierge in the apartment building of his parents. So I'll be contacting the court to have the money he owes me taken directly from his pay. The thing is, he has no idea I'm the culprit of all his bad fortune, and he recently sent me a message telling me he misses me, that I was an angel for him, and that he regrets what he did. Well, not me, loser, not me. So tell me if you guys missed this while you were reading the story, but didn't they say that they took him to court? But at the end they say that he has no idea who did this to him? That doesn't quite add up. Unless this guy's incredibly dumb, and that would just work out even better for OP, because they don't have to worry about any kind of retaliation. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from JXXXL-Z. Grandma plays the sweet old lady facade and destroys them all. Let's jump right in. My boyfriend and I were together for 9 years. On our 7th anniversary, he proposed and I said yes, but we decided that we'd get married after 2 years so that we'd have time to save up enough for the wedding and our future kids, etc. Our families were ecstatic except for his mother. I don't know why, but she never liked me since day one, and she was not shy in showing it, incessantly accusing me of being a whore, but mainly being a gold digger. I'm not trying to brag, but I earn more than her son, and, this will be important later on, I came from a well-off and respected family in our community. Whilst preparing for the wedding, his mom took pleasure in being a darn pain in the butt. Mother-in-law would make changes about the details of the wedding without informing me or her precious boy, such as informing my guests that their invitations were revoked to accommodate her chosen guest, whom I've never met or heard about before. Mess with the seating arrangements and change the menu and arrangements, etc. I had to pay twice, mother effing twice, just to revert the changes she made. Of course, it did not sit well with her. So being the ever-mature adult that she is, she cried and threw a tantrum. An effing tantrum. I am not a confrontational person, and I easily get anxious when I feel tension arise. Thank goodness ex-fiance's grandparents from fiance's father's side were really lovely people. And of course, my beautiful grandma, they were the main reasons why I was able to put up with all the BS she was doing. Belittling was one of her hobbies, so it did not come as a surprise when she berated me about my wedding dress, which was gorgeous by the way, and it was handmade by my mom's best friend, who's like my second mother. It took a year and 3 months to finish the dress. In short, the dress was really special to me. I never ever raised my voice nor said anything negative about mother-in-law, but the straw that broke the camel's back was when she stole my wedding dress 2 months before the wedding and destroyed it because she didn't like the design. I had a full-on anxiety attack when I found out about what she'd done. And whilst my anxiety attack, she never lifted a finger to help, but she was on her usual routine, calling my anxiety attack as a cry for attention, and that I was just being over dramatic. It was too late to fix the dress, so I ended up buying a new wedding dress. By this time, we were way over our budget for the wedding because of this monster. Wedding day comes, lo and behold, my dashing fiance was a no-show. No one knew where he was and no one could reach him. I was devastated and a crying mess. And of course, mother-in-law thought it was a perfect opportunity to verbally attack and mock me. To be honest, it still hurts me every time I remember this. Up to this day, I honestly believe nothing will ever make me feel so pathetic. I showed up to work the following day, desperately trying to distract myself from all the fiasco. And 3 days later, I found out that he had been cheating on me for a year with a mutual friend. The worst part was, we all worked at the same place. As I said, I am not a confrontational person, so I did my best to avoid them and avoid the drama. But Ugly Ho started tormenting me by purposely showing off how sweet ex-fiance was. How he treats her like a princess, topped with nauseating public displays of affection, and was spreading rumors and talking crap about me just to get me riled up, but it didn't work. Ugly Ho, with the help of mother-in-law, started targeting my family. As I mentioned, my family is well respected in our community, and everyone knew what went down between us. So some of our close friends informed us about Ugly Ho's malicious comments about our family. Of course, my ex-fiance, being the ever spineless bee he is, did nothing and sided with his new hoe. I am really close with my grandma. She was the one who raised me when both my parents died. I love and respect the woman. She is the epitome of what a classy woman is. She has this aura that was really kind and comforting, but can be very intimidating when the situation calls for it, which is why she was well respected and well loved in our community. She always had a smile on her face and treated everyone well. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would make it after all that had happened to me. So when Ugly Ho started badmouthing her, I was hell-bent on destroying her and my spineless and buttless bee ex-fiance. I was beyond furious at this point. Thus, I started scheming on how I planned to drag them down. I talked to my grandma about it, but she convinced me not to do so and that I should just leave our hometown for a while to take a breather and take some time to heal myself, etc. After weeks and weeks of discussions, and I eventually saw how everything that had happened and was currently happening was taking a toll on my mental and emotional health, I conceded defeat to my grandma's idea. So I left, didn't contact anyone from the hometown, except my grandma, of course. 2 years passed, and I received an invitation for our high school reunion. By this time, I've been really missing my friends and family, so I decided that it was high time to return and reconnect with my old friends and family. Everyone was surprised to see me, but everyone was really warm and welcoming. It certainly felt like I was back home. Everything was going well. I was in line to get a refill of my drink when I overheard 2 girls blabbering about how Ugly Ho was pregnant and the father of the child was a married man. I was curious as F, but decided not to pry about it since I no longer want to be in on the loop about whatever was going on with them. The following day, I met up with my favorite cousin and my curiosity got the best of me, so I asked him about what went on when I left. And oh boy, I was not ready for this. My grandma always had a gleeful disposition. She always greeted everyone and engaged in small talks with anyone. But apparently, when I left, she started to act differently. The happy grandma from next door was gone. She always had a gloomy smile. Even the way she talked changed. She talked about how bad she felt for me, how she was hurting so much, that me, her precious granddaughter, was going through such a rough time, how it broke her heart knowing she couldn't do anything to ease my pain. People around us knew Grandma as someone who hates to be seen as weak and helpless. Thus, it was a truly heartbreaking surprise when they saw Grandma in such a state. Despite her lamenting about my unfortunate situation, she had nothing but kind words for ex-fiancé, mother-in-law, and ugly hoe. Everyone revered me and my grandmother for handling the situation ever so gracefully. Their words, not mine. Despite all the bad blood, we took the high road. People now started treating ex-fiancé and mother-in-law differently. They became a social pariah. After hearing what both ex-fiancé and mother-in-law did and how they treated me, especially mother-in-law, most family members cut their ties with them. Mother-in-law's husband, a good man but very timid, apparently was my grandma's student, filed for a divorce and declared that mother-in-law could have whatever she wanted for the marriage as long as he didn't have to deal with her anymore. As for ex-fiancé, most of our mutual friends sided with me throughout the ordeal. Ex-fiancé was being groomed to be promoted for a takeover as the department chief, and this was huge because if it went through, ex-fiancé would be the youngest chief in the company's history. But due to what had happened and the fact that his boss, my second mom's husband, was a close family friend of ours, it all went down the drain. Ex-fiancé was not fired from his job because boss thought it would be such an easy way out, and because my grandma spoke to boss that firing ex-fiancé would be wrong and unprofessional, and again, playing her sweet old lady card. Ugly Ho was caught having an affair with one of her bosses. Unfortunately, this boss of hers was married. The wife found out about the affair, but didn't know who the third party was. Obviously, divorce papers were filed, and both parties agreed that it was a no-fault divorce, until the wife received incriminating evidences of both Ugly Ho and the boss, which were sent anonymously. Grandma hired a private investigator to collect enough evidence to incriminate both Ugly Ho and boss. Not only did the wife sue for 80% of their property, but she also filed a case to have Ugly Ho's license to be revoked on grounds of moral turpitude. As the investigation went on, they found out that Ugly Ho and boss had been stealing from the company. One thing people did not know about my grandma is that she is really conniving. She knows how to play that sweet lady card all too well. Now, OP left an update on the story. It says, edit update. My grandma just told me she saw Ugly Ho at the grocery store and decided to have a small talk with her. She approached Ugly Ho with a smile on her face and a bottle of olive oil in her left hand. My grandma is very soft-spoken. With a huge, sickly, sweet smile, she proceeded to talk crap about Ugly Ho. Of course, Ugly Ho, being Ugly Ho, was pissed and started yelling at my grandma. A fellow shopper saw what went on and called the manager and the security. When the manager asked about what happened, Ugly Ho began furiously explaining and repeating what my grandma just said to her. My awesome grandma then put on her gloomy smile and said that I approached her because I wanted to know if this was the right kind of cooking oil I was looking for. I couldn't read the label since I forgot my glasses at home. I'm sorry, miss, I didn't mean to bother you. I just needed some help. And this infuriated Ugly Ho. The manager turned to Ugly Ho and said, ma'am, the old lady just needed some help, and I'm pretty sure she would leave you alone if you just tell her you did not want to be bothered. My grandma then said, it's alright, sir, I was at fault here. Again, I'm sorry, miss. Hope you have a lovely day ahead. Everyone who saw the commotion gave Ugly Ho dirty looks at the grocery store, and some were really sweet and offered to assist and accompany my grandma while doing her groceries. I effing love this woman. I know that I'll never be as cool as she is, ha ha ha. In one last little update down at the bottom, it says, my grandma and I would like to thank each and every one of you guys. You're all really lovely, and she'd like to share a little advice. When someone screws you over, let them think that you're an underdog, and when they are complacent, hit them where it hurts. So to summarize this, Grandma brought about the destruction of mother-in-law's marriage, destroyed the word and reputation of mother-in-law and ex-fiancé, resulting in their isolation from their respective peer groups, revealed that Ugly Ho was having an affair, and removed ex-fiancé's chances at the promotion he so desperately wanted. You know, Grandma seems like the kind of person who could do all of that stuff before tea, and just sit down, have that nice tea, and be like, it's a good day. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.